Good afternoon. I'm Heather Hiscox. We thank you for joining us for special coverage of the death of Queen Elizabeth. Welcome to you on CBC Television. We have been on the air on CBC News Network and, of course, on our streaming platforms as well, but we welcome you on CBC Television as we await King Charles III in London, and in under 5 minutes now, he will be delivering a historic address, his first as king. We look live at Buckingham Palace here, and we have seen throngs of people outside the palace in London. We have seen similar scenes outside Windsor, outside the castle in Balmoral. That's our reporter, Travis Danraj, and he's going to be with me in just moments, as a matter of fact, too. But we are going to hear what King Charles III wants to convey to those people, to the people in the United Kingdom, to the people of the Commonwealth, indeed to the people of the world, after the death of his mother, after 70 years on the throne. He takes over as King Charles III. That first address recorded already. He returned to Buckingham Palace earlier today, had his first audience with Prime Minister Liz Truss, and recorded the address that we're going to hear very shortly in the blue drawing room of Buckingham Palace. Rafe Hadelmanku is with me, and if you're watching on CBC News Network, we were talking to Rafe just moments ago. But Rafe, since we're also welcoming people in on CBC Television, let's go back to the thoughts that we had just moments ago. We are now 4 minutes away, 3 minutes away from this first address. The moment and what the message is likely to be from the new king.
Yes, well, when Winston Churchill became Prime Minister in 1940, he wrote in his diaries that he felt that his whole life had been but a preparation for this moment and for this trial. And I think those words apply equally to the Prince of Wales, who has waited his entire life for this moment. He's had the longest apprenticeship in history as the heir apparent. He's the oldest Prince of Wales to succeed to the throne. And he has to reassure the nation that the crown is going to be in good hands going forward for the decades ahead. Reassure the nation, reassure the Commonwealth, Canada, and the other realms included too. And also he has to pay tribute and thanks to the legacy of his mother. The Elizabethan age was one of our great eras, has now come to an end. And along with all of that also, we have to remember this is a man who has just lost his mother. So what emotions is he experiencing? At the same time, he's always wanted to become king. And so you have those two combinations, both of which he has to deal with in his speech. I don't think you're going to see any sort of setting out of his idea of what his role will be and what type of monarch he'll be or what style of monarchy we're going to see. This is not the time for that. This is a time to reflect, give thanks, pay tribute, and reassure.
Rafe, I'm watching the clock on the BBC, which is in charge of disseminating this. We have about 90 seconds until the King's address to the nation begins. So in that time, you mentioned Winston Churchill, and I'm glad, because you think back to the scenes of his funeral. What we've already seen on this first full day, already extraordinary, and in our lifetime, we won't have seen anything comparable. What do you foresee over these next days, the images that we will see, the tributes? What is it going to be like, in your view?
Well, this will be the first state funeral in Britain since the death of Churchill in 1965. So we won't have seen anything like this. Britain doesn't have a written constitution. And we don't have an Independence Day like America has, or a Bastille Day revolutionary anniversary. So for us, it's the monarchy that provides those key moments for the nation to come together in times of happy times, like royal weddings and coronations and jubilees, but also in times of tragedy, like funerals of the sovereign. And so the nation will come together. They're expecting London to be at peak capacity, perhaps as it's never been before, not even a single hotel room available. So it's quite remarkable, and it's going to be one of those moments to help forge the new nation in terms of providing an opportunity for social cohesion and for us to come together.
As we look at the Mall and we look at the Palace, Rafe, just pause if you would, and I will be speaking to you once we have heard this address. We are now, as you watch special live coverage on CBC Television, on CBC News Network, just seconds away from hearing this key moment. King Charles III, his first address as king. Let's listen.
I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow. Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother, was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family. And we owe her the most heartfelt debt any family could owe to their mother, for her love, affection, guidance, understanding, and example. Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing. That promise of lifelong service I renew to you all today. Alongside the personal grief that all my family are feeling, we also share with so many of you in the United Kingdom, in all the countries where the Queen was head of state, in the Commonwealth and across the world, a deep sense of gratitude for the more than 70 years in which my mother, as Queen, served the people of so many nations. In 1947, on her 21st birthday, she pledged in a broadcast from Cape Town to the Commonwealth to devote her life, whether it be short or long, to the service of her peoples. That was more than a promise. It was a profound personal commitment which defined her whole life. She made sacrifices for duty. Her dedication and devotion as sovereign never wavered through times of change and progress, through times of joy and celebration, and through times of sadness and loss. In her life of service, we saw that abiding love of tradition, together with that fearless embrace of progress, which makes us great as nations. The affection, admiration, and respect she inspired became the hallmark of her reign. And as every member of my family can testify, she combined these qualities with warmth, humor, and an unerring ability always to see the best in people. I pay tribute to my mother's memory, and I honor her life of service. I know that her death brings great sadness to so many of you, and I share that sense of loss beyond measure with you all. When the Queen came to the throne, Britain and the world were still coping with the privations and aftermath of the Second World War, and still living by the conventions of earlier times. In the course of the last 70 years, we have seen our society become one of many cultures and many faiths. The institutions of the state have changed in turn. But through all changes and challenges, our nation and the wider family of realms, of whose talents, traditions, and achievements I am so inexpressibly proud, have prospered and flourished. Our values have remained and must remain constant. The role and the duties of monarchy also remain, as does the sovereign's particular relationship and responsibility towards the Church of England, the church in which my own faith is so deeply rooted. In that faith and the values it inspires, I have been brought up to cherish a sense of duty to others and to hold in the greatest respect the precious traditions, freedoms, and responsibilities of our unique history and our system of parliamentary government. As the Queen herself did with such unswerving devotion, I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation. And wherever you may live in the United Kingdom, or in the realms and territories across the world, and whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love, as I have throughout my life. My life will, of course, change as I take up my new responsibilities. It will no longer be possible for me to give so much of my time and energies to the charities and issues for which I care so deeply. But I know this important work will go on in the trusted hands of others. This is also a time of change for my family. I count on the loving help of my darling wife, Camilla. In recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, she becomes my Queen Consort. I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much. As my heir, William now assumes the Scottish titles which have meant so much to me. He succeeds me as Duke of Cornwall and takes on the responsibilities for the Duchy of Cornwall, which I have undertaken for more than 5 decades. Today, I am proud to create him Prince of Wales, Tywysog Cymru, the country whose title I've been so greatly privileged to bear during so much of my life and duty. With Catherine beside him, our new Prince and Princess of Wales will, I know, continue to inspire and lead our national conversations, helping to bring the marginal to the centre ground, where vital help can be given. I want also to express my love for Harry and Meghan as they continue to build their lives overseas. In a little over a week's time, we will come together as a nation, as a Commonwealth, and indeed a global community, to lay my beloved mother to rest. In our sorrow, let us remember and draw strength from the light of her example. On behalf of all my family, I can only offer the most sincere and heartfelt thanks for your condolences and support. They mean more to me than I can ever possibly express. And to my darling Mama, as you begin your last great journey to join my dear late Papa, I want simply to say this: thank you. Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations you have served so diligently all these years. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
First televised address from King Charles III. About 9 minutes in duration, pre-recorded earlier today in the blue drawing room of Buckingham Palace. We look at live pictures of the exterior of the palace. And there is a lot to talk about in that speech, as we had expected, as our experts and commentators has indicated, very much a look to the future, although not too in-depth on his own monarchy, but very much a tribute to his late mother, in fact, concluding with a personal message to Mama as she gets set to embark, as he said, on her last great journey to join his beloved Papa, of course, Prince Philip, who passed away last year, a thanks to her. And that is very much the sentiment from the people you see in front of the palace. Thank you, Mom, as seems to be the most important message of gratitude. He mentioned that as he spoke of the family's personal grief and his profound sorrow, the family's profound sorrow at the loss of their mother and the Queen at the age of 96 and after 70 years on the throne. Let's go outside for just one moment. We're going to assess things in detail from what we heard of the King. Travis Danraj is outside Buckingham Palace, and I know, Travis, you were listening very closely to all of that. I don't know, is there a way for the people there behind you to be listening in? They seem to be in rapt attention, but maybe they were just anticipating. What were you listening to? What really stood out for you in what we heard from the King?
Heather, you are exactly right. You know, they were captured by this. There are screens that were set up here, little televisions that people were honed in on. Let me just step out of the way and show you the scene right now, because they're still watching that television set. And I will tell you this, that once the King finished on that very emotional note, the crowd here erupted in applause. This is a historic moment. It is an emotional moment as well, and you could see everybody in this crowd really paying attention to every single word that King Charles was saying. You talked about how he really spoke about his devotion to these people, not only these people, but people around the world. He said, "I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love." And it was a touching tribute to his mother. He was speaking not only as a king, but also as a son, and he highlighted 96 years of accomplishments. You know, we have been talking all day about how Charles has been preparing his entire life for this moment, and really for that speech tonight. And, you know, clearly the crowd here at least thinks that he struck that right note, paying tribute to his mother and also talking about the future of the monarchy with him at the helm now. He touched on not only the Queen Consort, talking about her dedication and devotion to service, but also his son William, who now becomes the Prince of Wales. He talked about Meghan and Harry as well. So he was trying to bring this monarchy, this new monarchy, to the people that were listening and saying that we are going to be here. We are going to continue in that service of tradition. We are going to continue in that service of dedication to duty. And that is something that you heard throughout the speech when he was speaking about his mother's legacy and what he hopes he will bring now to the throne, Heather.
Travis, thank you, and we'll be back to you, of course, to that position outside Buckingham Palace. There with the crowd behind, I just want to show you quickly what is also gone at the same time as those inside St. Paul's Cathedral rise and sing hymns, the first of a number of church services we will see in tribute to the Queen. This is a prayer service and a remembrance service, and some 2,000 people in attendance. And we will listen in because the Prime Minister is there and the Archbishop of Canterbury as well. But as we watch this, I want to come back to the King's address, the first to the nation, to the Commonwealth, and as King Charles indicated, to the world. Rafe Hadelmanku was watching very closely. You know, acknowledging exactly what you said, Rafe, in terms of likely paying extensive tribute to his mother, which he did. And maybe what was important, or one of the many important messages in this, the commitment to service, going back to the speech that everyone is remembering when she was 21 and pledging the vow of her life, however long or short, to the service of her peoples. And he's saying he renews that lifelong commitment to service. How important will it be for the people to hear that message?
Extremely important. I mean, the role of the monarch is twofold. It's to be the head of state, which is to perform the constitutional functions of state opening of parliament, receiving ambassadors, but it's also to be head of the nation, to be the emotional and spiritual focal point for the nation throughout its ordeals and at all times. And it's very important to know that we have in the Prince of Wales a worthy successor to his mother, somebody who wants to carry on her legacy of dedication, devotion, self-sacrifice, and service. And so we saw him clearly lay out his desire to renew not only his pledge to serve the nation, but also making a clear point that his faith was very important to him, as it was to his mother, and that there was some discussion, if you may remember, 10, 20 years ago, about whether he would be defender of the faith, as the Queen was, defender of the Church of England, or defender of faith, meaning a multi-faith society. And traditionalists believe that you should be defender of the faith because Britain has an established Church of England. And so he was very clear to say that under him, things will continue as they did under the Queen. He will be the head of the Church of England, defender of the faith. But he was also clear to say that wherever you are in the Commonwealth, whatever your faith, whatever your creed, wherever you are, he will serve you just as he serves everybody else. This was about service and dedicating himself to his peoples. That is what people want to hear and to be reassured, and knowing also his clear words of love for his wife, who he said was his strength and stay, so people know that he has the support of the wonderful Queen Consort and also of the new Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, who will be fulfilling their roles as much-loved members of the royal family supporting him. So we know that there is a team in place for the monarchy to carry things forward.
That continuity, the firm, the plan, all there laid out. I want to come back to you, Rafe, to that notion in just a moment. But since we're looking, as you speak to us, at what is happening in St. Paul's, the cathedral there, and we are seeing the 2,000 people in this service of remembrance, underscoring exactly what you said, that the King professing that his own faith is so deeply rooted in the Church of England, so satisfying those with concerns, but also acknowledging how much society has changed, multinational, multicultural, and multi-faith, as he said in that speech. Can you, the notion of the family around him, the support network, he did acknowledge that his life is going to change. Tremendous understatement, one would think, Rafe. The fact that he has now named so quickly Prince William as Prince of Wales and Catherine the Princess of Wales, effectively what changes for his heir in that?
Well, before I move on to that, I'm not sure whether I'm reading too much into what he was implying when he said that he won't have as much time for his charities and interests. But I sort of rather think that's a way of reassuring people that he won't be an activist king. One of the major concerns was that over the past few decades, the Prince of Wales has been far more engaged and outspoken, controversially at times, on things like architecture and the environment and so forth. And that has raised some concerns. The monarch's role is to be non-partisan, to rise above issues and not to take sides on any points whatsoever. He has reassured in the past that once he becomes king, he won't actually engage in the issues that he engaged himself with, quite rightly, as Prince of Wales. He did have to have a role to play for those 70 years of his life before becoming a king. He wasn't a playboy prince off in Monte Carlo. He was actively involved in issues of concern to him in this country. And I think by saying that, I think was his very subtle way, I think, of saying that he understands that things will be different and you'll see a different Charles as king than he was as Prince of Wales.
And again, in that notion of service as he embarks as King Charles III, his pledge in his words throughout all the remaining time, God grants me, as the king said, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation. Rafe, thank you. Just stand by if you would, and we'll be back to you for more of your analysis. Rafe is a royal historian. As we look at these beautiful scenes from inside St. Paul's, why don't we pause and just listen? They may be just coming to the end of this hymn. Let's listen together. Inside St. Paul's Cathedral for the service of remembrance, the very place where many gathered just months ago for the Platinum Jubilee service of thanksgiving for Queen Elizabeth. She was not able to attend that. but many hymns sung to her and prayers of thanksgiving for her, and we will hear those from St. Paul's today. And indeed, of course, looking ahead to the state funeral in Westminster Abbey, we still don't have a confirmed date for that, but we did hear from King Charles just moments ago, a little over a week's time. The world will gather to pay tribute in that funeral to his mother, Queen Elizabeth. And that will be an extraordinary scene, the likes of which we have not seen, if ever, but is certainly in a very long time. Michaëlle Jean is with us today. She was listening in, former Governor General, someone who obviously knew very closely the Queen and now knows the King. And Madame Jean, I'm wondering, as you listened to that address, we looked ahead to it together just before 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Did he meet the moment, do you think?
I believe so. I think he used the right words to express his sorrow, to pay tribute to his mother, to acknowledge the legacy that he wants to follow, and in a sense of continuity. I really liked the way he described Elizabeth II, and from also, I would say a public point of view, but also from a son's testimony, and it was really, really beautiful. And at the same time, I think he did something that I expected very much for him to do, to acknowledge the time we're in, to acknowledge the change also. His mother really went through the last century and this century and had to adapt to so much. You know, she was both from the colonial times and decolonization. And the United Kingdom itself has changed. It's a society of multicultural diversity, multi-faith, and Prince Charles, now the King, the monarch, has also lived it. And you know, even if he said that he will not have time to dedicate, you know, to his charities, and there were also some issues about that. There were some controversies, but I think his nature will come back, of course, as he will travel. I mean, the country, the United Kingdom, but also the world. I'm sure he will continue to do that. Of course, we'll see him on the ground with some of these, you know, convictions that he showed about the environment. I'm sure that it won't be the same way, but we will feel, you know, the vision of the man, and what he cherishes, and the values. I don't know, you know, the way I remember Prince Charles at the time is a man of good taste, of who likes to appreciate local, you know, local goods, local produce, homemade things, and I think as he will be with communities, with people, you will see that. You will see the expression of that, and it will actually bring some quality also to his presence. He will not stay at a distance, because I don't know him as being that. He's also a people's person. That's the way he behaved. Every time we met him, every time I saw him in action, every time I saw him with people, he had always a word of appreciation for what people do, what they create, you know, and I can't see him changing that. It's part of his nature. This defines him.
It's so interesting, and this is something who he has been, whom we have seen as he espoused these issues going back to the 1960s, sustainability and climate change. He first started to speak out about that then. Architecture, this is not something new. So it'll be interesting to see how he navigates that because, of course, as you well know, his mother so famously avoided anything of controversy, anything with politics at the core. We had talked earlier, just quickly, your last thoughts on what the tone would be, and you felt the need to connect with people. We'd seen him interacting with people outside the palace. And there was a real human warmth when he talked about maman and papa. At the same time, he was serious, but there was that. How did that strike you?
Yes, because everyone can connect to that. It's part of, the fundamentals, in your life, this connection to your elders, to your parents, to what you've learned also from life, what you've received from them. And people want to see in the monarch this capacity of expressing himself and speaking of his feelings. He started with his sorrow, and also he said that he was sharing the sense of loss. So already it's like, from my sorrow, I want to say that I'm sharing also your sense of loss, because he knows that people are grieving in our mourning, with the passing of his mother. So he wants to create a sense of unity. We are united in this moment, and here I am, and I'm grateful to you because this is how also I'm presenting myself to you. And that was really well done. That was really, really nice.
Yes.
And also there's something that he mentioned. He spoke of part of the role is also to cultivate and to reinforce the social cohesion. Social cohesion means, engaging also with people and understanding people and being aware also of some challenges in terms of living together. I mean, it's clear he also lives in a society that is, struggling with some tensions, and he assumes that in his role as a monarch, he will have also to cultivate and enhance and consolidate, social cohesion. That's the best part I find of the role and of the duty, and it's something that speaks to us too, when it speaks to me as Governor General, when I had to reflect upon, what could I do and what was I going to do and what kind of vision I would like to bring to the role and to my tenure. And of course, it was all about, yes, of course, reinforcing social cohesion, bringing people together, because that's the capacity we have. We represent a leverage. This is and in Canada, this is what governors general do. They represent a leverage. They have this capacity of bringing people together and enhance and create opportunities, for dialogue, for sharing, for galvanizing and igniting a sense of excellence,
Yes.
of surpassing yourself, recognizing the best in people. And he said that his mother had this capacity of recognizing the best in people, and so that's a kind of legacy also that he received,
And he paid tribute to that, and you're right, acknowledging the challenges. Everyone's speaking of this time of political, of economic and social challenges for this new king, acknowledging both. You know this so well. Thank you, the 27th Governor General since Confederation from 2005 to 2010. Thank you so much, Michaëlle Jean, with us for our special coverage. You saw the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, there at the podium. I didn't want to cut off Madame Jean. She was reading a scriptural passage from Romans. We'll play that for you, but let us listen as we conclude this special hour of live coverage with the 2,000 inside St. Paul's Cathedral raising their voice in song